Hey everyone, so patch 6.51 released last week, and with it we got a bunch of new filler content to play through. And now that I've had a week to devour it all and digest it, I thought it would be a great time for impressions. So just as a quick refresher, what we got this patch was the Fall Guys crossover event. This was something I was highly anticipating, and I thought it looked like the perfect addition for the Gold Saucer. We also got a brand new variant dungeon. This content has quickly become some of my favorite stuff to do in the game, so yet again, another thing I was looking forward to. And lastly, Crystalline Conflict got a brand new arena to play around in. Now, I've never been much of an MMO PvPer, so I wasn't exactly excited for this one, but I was happy to see that they are still pumping out content for it. So now the big question, how is this new content, and is it worth renewing a sub for? Well, let's take a look, starting with the Fall Guys event. So, like I said, this was something that I was highly anticipating. Fall Guys was a really fun party game that I played quite a lot when it was first released, and when they said it was coming to the Gold Saucer, I thought that was perfect. Fall Guys is the type of game where you aren't supposed to take it all that seriously, and I feel like that is what the Gold Saucer is in a nutshell. A place to go and relax and have some fun playing mini-games. So for this event, let's start off with the good, and then we'll look at some concerns. The first thing that immediately struck me is the aesthetic. It's very playful and colorful, and it invites you in to have a good time. The music is also taken directly from Fall Guys, and is something that I shut off immediately. Now, the obstacle courses are of course the big selling point, and I thought that they were great. The developers mentioned that the Fall Guys team helped with designing them, and that really shows. They look like they came directly out of the game, and I thought it was a lot of fun learning how to get through them. They tested a variety of different skills. They had platforming sections that tested your jumping and movement. There were sections that tested your timing, such as when you had to run up a slippery slope and dodge snowballs. There were also sections that impaired your movement, where a hand appears above your head, screwing with your controls. Now, the stage that stuck out the most to me is the one where you had to collect all the different colored crystals. That one had some tight movements and timing required to win. It's definitely the most challenging, at least in my opinion. Sometimes I'd watch other players running through and couldn't help but think, wow, did they get really lucky with server ticks or something? But the truth is that it is a skill-based game, and once you learn the timing and patterns, all the obstacles can be cleared very consistently. Now the thing is, I am not so sure if that is a good thing. Party games usually have RNG in them, to keep things interesting, but I'll get more into that later. So another nice thing is that losing doesn't feel awful. You actually get decently rewarded just for trying, and if you can manage to clear just the first course, you actually get a lot of currency. Speaking of the rewards, the cosmetics for this event look really cool. The shirt has this awesome particle effect on it, so of course that was the first thing I went for. The other tab has even more stuff to get, including a new emote, a mount, and housing stuff. I will say that the mount isn't exactly my favorite and I don't think I'd ever use it, but the completist in me just had to have it. So that's everything that I liked. Now let's get into my concerns. I think the fact that you gain the currency so fast is a double-edged sword. It's nice in the moment, but I was able to get everything I wanted in under 2 hours. So the concern is, how long will this keep players' interest? Now, with that being said, there is a title you get for placing first 100 times, and I think that could take a very, very long time to achieve. Now, to put that into some perspective, I've only gotten first once so far. Another concern I have is the variety of the courses. Now, while I loved all the courses that were there, I felt like there just wasn't enough of them. At the moment, we have 5 that get cycled through, and it doesn't take long before you've done them all multiple times. And the last concern I have is the lack of RNG. Now, I am usually not a huge fan of RNG, but in party-type games, it's kind of expected. It keeps things interesting. So in the original Fall Guys, they had stages where you were randomly put onto teams, and that was a great way to have some RNG, while still keeping player skill in the forefront. And I thought that the Collect Crystal stage would have been the perfect place to do that. You know, you get 2 minutes, the team with the most crystals goes through, and I honestly think I might have preferred that. Concerns aside, I really did love my time with this event, and as time goes on, if they keep adding new courses and rewards, it can only get better and better. But as it stands right now, I basically got everything I wanted in under 2 hours. So the second big update that came with this patch is the new variant dungeon, so let's go take a look at that now. So the immediate thing that stuck out about this dungeon is that it looks gorgeous. It almost feels like a sneak peek of what we might expect out of Dawntrail, and if this is what they are able to achieve before the graphics update, that makes me even more excited to see the new graphics in action. And as for the new dungeon itself, what can I say? I loved it. I maintain that this content is quickly becoming some of my favorite content in the game. It's just such a breath of fresh air from the normal dungeon formula. I love that it's more open-ended and rewards exploration and paying attention to your surroundings. I also think finding all the different routes is a lot of fun, especially that hidden route. That one takes a lot of detective work. You have to read through all the logs and find the clues, and then you need to figure out what the clues are actually telling you to do, and I just found that part to be so compelling and fun, and when I finally figured it all out, it was one of the most rewarding things. Another great thing is that you can solo the entire dungeon, and it provides a decent challenge. I actually died several times learning some of these bosses, especially Lala, who had some mechanics that baffled me for longer than I care to admit. Speaking of the bosses, I thought that they were all fantastic. The standout to me was the fairy boss. I love that they designed this encounter to showcase the mischievous nature of fairies. It's playful and colorful. The boss mechanics are very silly. The fairy even starts the encounter with a surprise mechanic that I think everyone got hit by, and it's up there as one of my favorite dungeon encounters. Now, as for the Criterion mode, it's the same story as it's always been. I still struggle to find groups, so I've only been able to see a little bit. And the little bit I've seen, I really liked. It's something I really want to finish. It's a great bit of challenging content. Even that starting trash was an eye-opener. The entire time there are these tornadoes that path around the arena, so while you're dealing with the enemy's mechanics, you also have to keep an eye out for the tornadoes, and it really keeps you on your toes and tests your situational awareness. And then you get to the very first boss encounter against the whale, and they did not hold their punches with this one. The very first mechanic is a doozy. It has geometric reasoning with these sponges that shoot out line AoEs, and now they get lifted up by bubbles and then moved around the arena, so you really have to pay attention to where the safe spots will be. And of course, there's also a spread or stack mechanic at the same time, and if that wasn't enough to take in, 2 party members get bubbled and thrown around just like those sponges do, while the other 2 get bound into place. I honestly thought that this mechanic was more of a challenge than the entirety of Extreme Zeramos. Now, unfortunately, I've only seen about half of this encounter, because as I said, I struggle to find parties. That's the biggest problem with this mode. It's just so hard to find groups. I think the issue is the challenge doesn't justify the rewards. They just aren't that compelling, and even though they added a way to gain some player power now, it requires a ton of effort. You need to clear the another mode first, and then clear it on Savage, and then you finally get a voucher to upgrade a Tombstone weapon to 665. Or, you could just wait until 6.55 and get your ultimate weapon for a lot less effort. Anyways, let's now move on to the last bit of new content, the new PvP arena. So, as I mentioned, I have never been a huge MMO PvP gamer, but I have to say, I enjoy playing Crystalline Conflict, and I think that's some pretty high praise, considering I usually don't like this sort of stuff. As for the new arena, I really liked it. I thought it was really cool, or I guess in this case, really hot. It was the gimmicks that actually sold it for me. I thought they were a lot of fun and added some flavor to the matches. Such as how the antlions try to suck you into their maws, or cactuars popping out to shoot you with their needles. There's also like this heat stroke dot to manage, and an oasis that you can visit to restore your HP. All of that stuff, on top of the actual PvP, I thought made the matches really engaging and fun. Another big selling point for me is that the matches are very fast-paced and they don't drag on. One of the worst feelings is when you join a PvP match, you know you are going to lose pretty early into it, and then you still have to wait around for like 15 minutes to lose. that doesn't really happen here, and whenever you get into overtime, it feels kind of nice trying to claw your way back to a victory. But you know, even when you lose, you still get decently rewarded, so that helps alleviate the sting of losing. Now, just to be clear, I PvP very casually. I don't bother with the ranked matches. I know that would start to frustrate me. My goal is to clear what is essentially the battle pass and get all the cosmetics that I want. And for that, I think this content is great. Like I said, the matches are fast, losing doesn't feel that bad, and yeah, it took someone who usually doesn't like to PvP at all, and made me kind of like it. So yeah, that was the new patch in a nutshell. I think they added a lot of compelling content, the variant dungeon was a ton of fun, the Fall Guys event is a fantastic addition to the Gold Saucer, and I actually had fun PvPing. So yeah, quite a lot of stuff to do. Now, is it worth it to resub for this? I guess that depends on what you are looking for. Time-wise, the variant dungeon took me about 10 hours to do completely blind, the Fall Guy event took me around 2 hours to get all the stuff that I wanted, and PvP, if you want everything out of that, that's a very long grind. I wish I could say more about the Criterion dungeon, but like I said, I just can't find any groups for it. I don't really want to join a static just for that, so, you know, I don't know. I kind of wish I could just clear it like I do the extremes, but it just hasn't been working out that way. Anyways, that will be all for this one. What did you guys think of all this great new content? Was it everything you were hoping for? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw and want to see more, please like and subscribe. And until next time, bye!